Good, we're live, Pack. Whoa. Came in really hot. All right, we're gonna get the meeting started. Oh. Come on. Be up really loud on the mics. Just gonna start with the Pledge of Allegiance here. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we let's do a roll call here? Yes. Here. First. Here. Here. All right. We're gonna make a little change to the agenda here. We'll hear application 6-1 for Pine Street extension request, and then we're gonna jump ahead to 6-6 because they're two quick ones. So if we get started with application 6.1, it's Z 2022-13, 27 Pine Street. It's an extension request. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Tim?
Good. Do you want to just state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Jeffrey King, address is 27 Pine Street, Newtown Square, PA. So for the board, we were here previously and got a special exception approval. It contained a previous special exception approval, but for 20% above the buildable lot area, as well as a 45-foot setback. And the special exception will run out on November 19th. We're requesting in accordance with the code, a 6-month extension, which is the maximum we're allowed to request. I do.
And sorry, I know I was jumping over there, but do we have the file in order? I know even though we're extending it.
The file is in order. I mean, obviously, our case.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we're seeing a lot of that anyway now with people waiting on stuff to come in. So what we'll do here, if you're okay with it, we'll take the previous testimony, put that into the file, and we can move forward from there. Is that okay, Sam, to do?
I mean, I would suggest that we make part of the record. Question. Mention also a copy of the May 31st or May 19th of this certain condition. Whether or not agrees to order, and whether or not he'll comply as part of the extension request with that order.
Yes, I will apply with you.
Okay.
So I would ask that they be made part of the record on behalf of the applicant as applicant number 1, and the decision as applicant number 2.
All right, so the request from the 22nd and the decision from the 19th will be made part of the record. Does anyone want to make a motion on this application?
Public comment?
Oh, yeah. Anyone here wish to make public comment on this application? No one? All right.
I'll make a motion to extend 6.1 the 2022-13 with everything from to be included in the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. You're good.
Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
All right, we're gonna do application Z 2022-29, Barbara Mathers, 3544 Winding Way, pertaining to the subject property. The property owner is seeking variance relief and special exception approval from section 172-33B, subsection 6, and section 172-141F to allow the construction of an addition along the existing non-conforming side yard setback. Applicant is also requesting any other relief that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the R2 zoning district. And are you Mr.
I am
Mathers?
Ken Maddox.
And
Yes.
knew you weren't Barbara. So,
No. I figured we did this last year, so I had so much fun. I figured we'd do it again.
Yeah,
Just
hey,
Instead
why
of getting
not?
an extension, so
well, before we move forward, let's just get your name on the record here,
Ken Mathers,
address.
3544 Winding Way, Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, 19073. I do.
And is the file in order?
File is in order, because it was a new application, the township did post it. We had the posting on a photograph on file and up on the screen. Includes the notice that was mailed to everyone within 200 feet of the surrounding property. That's the posting, the notice, and a list of mailings. And all the addresses that are adjacent.
Okay, and this is similar to the previous application. This is an
Was a previous
extension.
application
Yeah,
that was approved by the
Okay.
board.
It was the exact same thing. I didn't know it was only good for 6 months. And then when we went to file for the building permit,
yeah.
found out the variance wasn't legit anymore. So
Okay. And do we have the dates for the initial request and the application approval from before?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, in accordance with the zoning officer's file, I would ask that the following exhibits be offered into evidence this time on behalf of the applicant, since it's a new application, despite a previous decision. The applicant's request for relief, his application as Township Exhibit 1, the listing of all residents within 200 feet of the subject property as Exhibit Township 2. Township 3 would be the notice of publication listed in the Daily Times, and finally, a picture of the posting that was done on the property for this evening's zoning hearing. I would also, as a suggestion to the applicant, if he wishes, that he can offer the notes of testimony from his previous hearing, if there's no variation or deviation from those, and whether or not he wishes to enter the order from the hearing on December 16th, 2021, as evidence of the board's previous decision, together with the conditions of approval. Is that
Yes.
wish of the applicant?
yes,
And your application, as it's been filed, is similar to that application of December of 2021?
exact same
And
thing.
you're willing to adhere to the decision and the conditions from that decision?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion?
Public,
Oh, my God. Thank God for you. Anyone here for public comment, wish to make public comment on this application? All right. Anyone wish to make a motion here?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion to approve application Z 2020-29. For the variance of their special exception approval. Section 172-33-6 and 172-141F. Allowing construction along the existing non-conforming side yard setback.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries.
Okay, hopefully we won't see you in 6 months.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Love to share.
All right, so now we will get back to the original order here. So application Z 2022-25, Katy and Andy Retzbach, 405 South Newtown Street Road. The applicant is seeking variance relief from section 172-103D subsection 1 for the placement of a pole barn on the property. The applicant also requests relief from any other sections of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the R1 zoning district.
Good, how are you?
Good. If we could get both of your names and address.
Katy Retzbach, 405 South Newtown Street Road, Newtown Square, PA 19073.
Andy Retzbach, 405 South Newtown Street Road, Newtown Square, PA 19073.
Yeah,
Yes,
Right, and Andy, is the file in order for this application?
Yes, follows an order, again, up on the screen, we have the posting. The notice that was sent to Delaware, Delco Times, advertised two occasions, the mailing list. Got it?
All right, and Sam, we
Yes, in accordance with the zoning officer's representation, we'd ask that township exhibits T1 be the applicant's request for relief, their application and all accompanying documents with the application. Township exhibit number 2 would be a list of all those residents who received notice within 200 feet of the property. Number T3, township exhibit 3 would be the picture of the notification that was posted to the property as of today. And number 4 would be the notice of publication placed in the Daily Times for this evening's meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And do we have anyone here on behalf of this application that wishes to make public comment or be a party protestant? All right, no one? All right. The floor is yours to take us through your project here.
Yep, so we originally had a shed on the property and a tree fell through it. So we decided to go a little bit bigger because our property got a lot of maintenance. So we have some yard equipment that we'd like to keep in it. We have pictures that I was able to take. Am I able to show these to you or
Come on up.
just to show you like kind of where it is and
Thank you.
Sharpie and where.
Edge to edge print. So look at that.
We'll just try to pull up your.
We do have a site plan that we do guys as well, but this is just to kind of give you the idea, so that's why the area is already kind of taken out, because we had a shed there.
So this, what I'm.
Yeah, that's the distance from it, yeah.
Is that where the new one's going?
Correct,
And is this
that's the
existing?
half, we're basically putting all that stuff into it.
So that's coming down?
Correct.
It's there, okay.
Yeah.
I'm only asking because of two structures.
Yep.
being-
That was
Yeah, that's
just
the-
Basically holding everything.
We have nowhere left in our house to put anything, so the back part of the shed that was crushed, that we were able to save, we just stuffed everything in it for now.
I'll keep this packet together and mark
You
it.
could, yeah, you can add that to that if you'd like.
Just how many pictures are there?
We just write down a lot.
You can do it cumulatively. Exhibits,
It's like
A
6 of them. So,
5 through 11 as the pictures.
all right. All right, sorry. You can
No, it's
continue
okay.
then, so. And I'm assuming, and Andy, that we're here because the shed size that they're looking for is beyond what
Yeah.
is allowed for that.
Yeah, we had some communication back and forth regarding the shed,
A barn.
the barn, with the garage. And again, having to rely on the definitions that we have available in addition to sometimes having to use Webster's dictionary, I think is the best and the safest process was to go through this board for the relief that's necessary.
All right, yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, so the total square foot that we're looking to have is 480 square foot, and we're limited to 370 square feet because we have 1.85 acres.
And that's due to the concept of it being a barn.
Okay. Not,
That's our definitions speak to garages, sheds and barns.
Huh.
And the barns are limited by section 172, 103, D1. And it speaks to the area of the barn in respect to the area of the property.
what does determine how that's going to be named between just calling it a garage or a barn or a shed then?
And that's kind of what we were back and forth about, because I was like, well, do we call it a garage? Because then the garage meets the square footage, but then he said we need a driveway. And I was like, well, we're not parking cars in it. It's just for yard equipment.
Tractor, I have like chipper shredder, like all my chainsaws, weed whackers, lawn mowers, like all that stuff's just sitting out under tarps and stuffed away in that little piece of shed.
This isn't to run like a business out of? or
Oh,
anything
God, no.
like that?
I have an office in Paoli,
No, it's just a poles, like it's just 4 walls that are made of metal and
no electric.
no electric, no, it's just for storage, no insulation, no.
So garage is out of the picture, so now we're determining between a shed and a barn then, I guess, if there's no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here again, using our definitions, a garage is used to store automobiles.
Yeah.
Right. So initially, we had the conversation conversation consisted of, are you parking vehicles in there? And if you are, you're going to have to provide a driveway in order to not create soil erosion when you're pulling your car in. Well, then the idea was, well, no, we're not using it as a garage. So the garage concept had to go out the window. If we apply the shed limitations, obviously our shed restrictions are very tight and would not, I mean, the largest shed that we can accommodate in our zoning is 180 square feet, and this is what, 480. So there would be a variance need for that. And then the barn concept is only comes in really when you're housing livestock. So I don't think we're
Which we're not
doing that
doing.
here.
We
So
have no
I mean, here again, I think it's more of a large shed.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a question? What was the size of the shed that was there prior to one? that-
180, 18 by 10 on the
I think
notes.
it was like the exact, and we did have a permit for that through you as well.
And I mean, I looked at the property, it looks like it's fairly large and there's, not too many neighbors around. I also saw that you had, 3 neighbors that have, signed off on, they're, okay with it, like the cul-de-sac that comes up to the property.
Basically, their backyard.
Yeah, they were fine with it.
And then the other one, I assume that's next to 401.
Yes.
401. Is there any issues with the height of the barn as well, or just square footage?
The shed it'll be over, right?
We don't have a height.
10,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I apologize. The height limitation is 20 feet per barn.
Okay, so you're below that.
Way
Looks like
below.
The walls are 10, and then you have,
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to see.
to 4 to 12, so
too late for me to do basic math on
So you're
that.
maybe 14.
yeah.
And that's the main thing we're looking for here really is the size, right? We're not going over into any, I guess, impeding onto your neighbor's property or anything like that, where we have any setback issues.
No, I think
So
we're
it's
like
just the-
15 feet from the
I think it's-
property line,
might be
if not
more
more.
than that.
Yeah, I mean, the plan that I was given shows 30-foot rear yard setback, which is far greater than what we require for an accessory structure, detached accessory structure. And a side yard of 24 feet, same thing applies. Their impervious coverage is only 9.13%, and they're allowed 25%. Now, the only thing that doesn't kick in at the moment, but because of 480 square feet of new impervious, they only have 20 square feet that's allowable, that remains allowable before they have to do stormwater. That's a cumulative. Effect.
You're aware of
But
that,
that's not
obviously, going
applicable.
over.
Most of our
That-
property is in the front yard on a hill, so we're not gonna do
Do you
anything.
have any neighbors with anything similar to this? And they're,
Our neighbor behind us in the cul-de-sac actually just built a
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah, one house over.
But they're in Marple Township,
I
right?
think they're
Yeah,
technically,
we're
that's
the-
where
that's
like.
all-
we're
we're the
the
last-
borderline.
They're the last one.
Yeah.
So all of your neighbors are kind of in Marple.
Correct.
Except
Except for
for
401.
Except for one.
Yeah, the one. We have one neighbor that's in our township.
Right.
We tried to get the neighbors that had the most view of what that would look like, which is all that cul-de-sac back there.
what is
Is
this?
this a-
Metal?
Do you have a double door or is this one single door?
One single.
What's
One single
what's
door.
the height of the opening?
Think be wide and.
Yeah, I think 8 foot tall.
For what, the garage door itself,
Is
16,
Standard.
standard door as opposed to more commercial?
4 wide. 4 west.
But
I
the
think
height
it's
of
the
it-
standard.
Standard, standard, okay.
Do you consider
Do you,
getting
do you have any
livestock?
objection?
God, no.
No.
We have 4 kids,
Yeah, we
5,
have
4 and
plenty.
under, we have plenty of livestock. Just with
I just
them.
have one question. Are you here seeking the variance today? Looking for the minimum, variance to be able to stay in compliance, but the only question is why 480 and not 360 or 380, whichever is where you would be in compliance? Why the need for the variance? Is it? You
We
have
just
to
don't want to
have-
be limited
Yeah,
to
'cause-
the storage side of things.
The 180, I mean, it was packed to the doors and our garage was full, like, because I have like chipper shredders, like for like all the branches and brush, like. And that was jam tight and the garage, so I think we need to go a little bigger just to get everything in there and be able to like work on stuff like, you know, to drop the mower deck and not be like dragging it out, laying in the stones. And not have to like move stuff around constantly.
That's probably the only flat surface we have on our property aside from in the actual garage that is in our, under our house. So like if you're drove by our house, our driveway is like a steep slope. So we can't really do much in the driveway as far as things
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
not, I
go.
can't really work on anything without laying on a hill.
All right, and Andy, do you have any concerns? I mean, there's no electric going, so we're not.
No
Any
plumbing,
step
no
backs or anything
gas,
like that?
no.
Oh, I don't have anything. Building
Yeah.
perspective or-
Always like. to
and
get-
everything else I think is fine.
Okay,
Is there any objection to putting a condition that it be used strictly for residential purposes and not commercial?
That's totally fine.
just we see some of these
I
pop
took-
up and people wanting to run a business out of it when it gets to this size, so. But, all right. Do you have any additional questions from? Oh, yeah. I know, I do
He did it
care,
the
I do
first
care what
time.
the public thinks. I'm sorry, I keep leaving everyone out, but is there any public comment to be made on this application? All right, does anybody want to make a motion on this application?
I'll make the motion to approve application D 2022 -25. For the variance for the pole barn. With the condition that it's not used for commercial use. And also with the condition that it's this size, 480 square feet, not to be more than that.
Correct.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is the rear setback and the side setback?
Just for out of curiosity, detached. Correct. But, 5 feet.
Oh, 5 feet? Oh, yeah.
So you're- if you would-
I keep forgetting.
I'll get your-
I just said public, but I-
Maybe
but
just
I-
go like the middle of next week. That's all right. That's fine. Thank you
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have application Z 2022-26. Orlando and Mary Lightfoot, 3701 Liseter Gardens. Pertaining to the subject property, the applicant is seeking variance relief to allow an accessory deck structure within the front yard of a corner lot as referenced by the Liseter Development Plan and Design Guidelines. The applicant also requests relief from any other sections of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the R1 zoning district and is also in the PRD overlay. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening.
If you do not mind just stating your name and address for the record.
Mary Lightfoot, 3701 Liseter Gardens.
And Orlando B. Lightfoot, 3701 Lister Gardens, Newtown Square, 9073.
Yes.
And Andy, is the file in order?
Files in order, the property was posted. Notice and the mailing list is also on the screen above.
All right, and Pam, is this? Okay,
Based on the testimony of the zoning officer, I would ask the following exhibits be offered into evidence. Township exhibit number 1 would be the applicant's request for relief and all accompanying documents and exhibits. Township exhibit number 2, a list of all people who were notified within 200 feet of the subject property. Number 3 would be the notice of this evening's meeting duly published in the Delaware County Daily Times. And number 4 is Township exhibit number 4 would be a picture of the actual posting of the subject property, giving notice to joining public of the tonight's hearing.
and do we have anyone here who wishes to make public comment on this application? Or as a party protestant to this application? Is this from last month? Was this one that got pushed to this?
No, I think this is a new one, as
Oh, okay.
far as I know.
Okay, well, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Take it away.
But we're here for the first time, so it's brand new. We're part of the. First of all, let us thank you for listening to us today, for this opportunity to explain or to elaborate, clarify any of the aspects of the request for variance that we submitted formally. My wife and I are here to lay out for you in brief form, and you can go through our application plus the supporting material. And we're prepared to respond to any part of that. We have been working with a builder. The builder has submitted the soil application process through, and we've received back notice that there's no unusual aspects to our presentation that will require soil erosion activity, as long as it's kept in the realm of what we're talking about, less than 500 square feet. And this is an application that essentially says that we have been downsizing for some time in our minds. We moved from another state, from here, doing family. And our plan was to downsize properly. And we have learned in the process that this downsizing is a continuous process. In fact, it's a right sizing. And the right sizing is continuous also. And we are finding out that what we thought we were going to want and desire when we came 7 years ago is different, because life is different. And so we were focused primarily on the inside of our house when we came. We did lots of things to be able to make it large enough for family to come and visit, and upstairs and talk and have a great social time. We essentially abandoned the outside and said, you go for yourself out there. We'll take the stamp patio of 10 by 12. That's all we will need. Now, 7 years later, and we've had COVID epidemic, and we've been in the house all that time. We haven't had kids come over particularly. We see them in the garage, or we see them on the driveway. And so we've said to ourselves, looks like it's time to make a shift. So we want to put a deck on the side of our house. We call it the side, it's the front yard, as I've read more clearly. And the setback is, what's required for that is 20 feet. And if we put the deck there, by definition, it'll be very small, it'll be too large. And what we have come up with as a document is that we have come up with 378 square feet as a possibility for a deck. And it turns out to be too close to the edge of the property to meet the setback requirement. So with all that in mind, we've given you plenty of pictures that you can see. If you want to look at any of those pictures there, show you
Tough
what
to
it
tell.
looks like. You have copies? In
We
your
do,
phone?
yeah.
Yeah, so you can sort of see where we have it comes right off the side of our house onto Rosemont Pass. And Rosemont Pass is we come out the front door in Liseter Gardens and out the back door into Shetland Mews. And Rosemont Pass is, we don't exit or enter there at all, but it's the closest, largest street. And the deck would come forward Rosemont Pass. So we have a proposal in front of us that we have thought seems to meet our needs, is aesthetically pleasing. The homeowners association has approved it, and they think it's reasonable. And they've essentially said, we'll give you this amount of feet to build your deck. And so we have that in our minds. We think that it's appropriate that we can work with that. We do have special requirements. And we put, when we were thinking outside, as we were right sizing, we put a walkway from the front of our building, the back of the building. And that's used to go back and forth from the garage to the front as we've needed. We'd have shrubbery on the side and so forth, but essentially it's to allow for mobility if we need it. And since I've needed it more, having had some episodes of cancer from 5 years ago and have mobility issues, you may need it again with canes and with walkers and even wheelchairs. So as we build this property, as we propose to build this extension, we want to make sure we have the opportunity to get around it so that we don't have to go in grass as we go from the front to the back of the house. Want to be able to maintain a pavement around it. So that's how we've designed this. And we think that the design that we put together follows that desire, and it meets reasonably well with what we have in mind. The issue that we propose for you to consider is essentially put into our petition on, it's labeled page 2 in your document. And it says with building a 378 square foot, 27 by 14 deck, 27 the length and 14 the width being extending toward Rosemont Pass. That's what we have in mind, but it would cause us to put a walkway around it so that we can get from the front and the back as we have in the past, but now we go around the deck. We'd have a pergola on top, and it would be consistent with the other decks in the area.
So
But
with, yeah,
So we're coming down, essentially, we're requesting a variance on the usual lot setback of 20 feet. The proposed deck would extend 14 feet from the house.
What would your side yard or is it front yard?
this
It would
seems like
it
a
would be,
side.
it would be a front yard. Understand, this is the Lister development.
Yeah,
They were, that setbacks were established by a set of design guidelines as part of the PRD. And that's what established that 20-foot setback from any main street or thoroughfare. So again, considering it no differently than our ordinance does any other corner lot. So it has a 20-foot setback on both street fronts. So essentially, Mr. Lightfoot has done a wonderful job explaining the situation. A dimensional variance is needed 6 feet. That's really the crux to the matter. So 20-foot setback is required. They're, the building currently is at 28 feet. They're extending 14 feet, leaving 14 feet available out of that. So they're requesting a 6-foot dimensional variance.
okay, so they're gonna still be 14 feet off of
No,
Rosemont Pass?
that's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
I was thinking we were getting 6 feet at first to
Yeah.
there, and then you're gonna be 14 feet off of there, plus next to the new deck, a walkway. to kinda get around.
There's a 7-foot dimension on the plot plan that's on the screen that is shown, but that is to the sidewalk.
Okay,
That's not shown to the actual deck structure itself.
And it looks like this is pretty consistent with other decks.
Yes. It is.
I mean, in looking at
and
it,
Liseter,
across the street has one already. And then there's one on Welsh Muse that they put in. So, and the HOA approved it, a whole thing as we see it today, right?
Yes, they essentially said you can come 14 feet out from the house for your deck. Nothing, no deck.
Right.
Prior to that.
Okay.
That does not include, they don't give a statement about pavement or shrubbery, they leave that. And our concern is that if we agree with that, and if we get that, we still need 6 feet.
Oh, yeah.
So they're about to play with.
All right, they did the same.
Hold on,
Okay. Andy, any concerns from your perspective here? I mean, it's been done, it's been approved by the HOA.
Yeah, I think that that's hugely important. There's no, I don't know if there's anyone here that's going to oppose the application. I don't believe there's any concern with sight triangles, visibility.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any public comment? I don't normally do this.
I would just suggest that if the board is going to consider approval, that we do the general conditions with regard to permit fees and compliance with her testimony, et cetera.
I mean, they'll still have to get their permits beyond this anyway, right?
Yes.
For everything. Okay.
But we always include it as part of the conditions.
Whoever decides to make the motion, if you want to.
I'll make a motion on Z 2022-26, applicant at very least to allow the deck with permit fees and conditions on this board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Motion
Thank you.
carries. Good luck with your new deck.
Good job with your presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come back anytime.
Hope not.
Oh, thank you.
I'll do my best to get your permit out early next week.
Thank you.
You, a mover, a wheelchair. Good evening.
I don't. Yeah, 100%. Next up is application Z 2022-27 Calvin and Joy Shih, 150 Ridgefield Road. The applicant is seeking a special exception from sections 172-33B subsection 6 and 172-141F to demolish an existing one-car garage and build a two-story garage with second floor living space. The applicant also requests relief from any other section of the zoning ordinance and may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the R2 zoning district. How are you?
Hi, good evening.
If you don't mind just stating your name and address for the record.
Joy Shih, 150 Ridgefield Road, Newtown Square, 19073.
My name is Calvin Joy and I live at 150 Ridgefield Road, Newtown Square, PA 19073.
Right, and Andy, is the file in order?
Yes, it is. Keeps putting up on the screen, photographic posting, physical posting of the property. There's also the legal notice that was sent to the Delco Times to be advertised on 2 separate occasions. And the mailing list of those property owners that are within 200 feet of the property boundary.
Right, and Sam?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, based on the testimony of the zoning officer, I asked that the following exhibits be marked as T1, the application for relief this evening, along with any documents and exhibits attached thereto. T2 would be the list of residents within 200 feet of the subject property. T3 would be the publication in the Delaware County Daily Times with respect to this evening's meeting, and the picture of the posting of the property also for this evening's meeting as well.
All right, and do we have anyone here who wishes to make public comment on this application or party protestant? No? All right. All right. All yours, if you want to take us through.
Sure, yeah. So my wife Joy and I, we moved into Newtown Square 10 years ago, well, a little more than that. We lived actually across the street over at Carriage House Apartments, so just down the road. And when we were expecting our first child, we thought time to expand a little bit. And so we bought our house at Ridgefield Road, and so we moved in there about 8 years ago. And so we had our first son a little after that. And then every 2 years after that, we had another kid. So at this point, we now have three boys. And when we moved into the house, we knew that the house was a little bit on the smaller side. Houses were built in the 50s. There were only 3 bedrooms on the second floor. And the garage, while it's attached to the house, there's no entryway directly from the garage into the house. And the garage doors are also two kind of smaller separate doors. So it's actually kind of hard to park our cars in there. And as I mentioned, we now have 3 kids and it's getting a little crowded. So we, right as the pandemic started, we thought we'd like to kind of upsize. And so we started looking around at some of the houses around, like we were thinking, do we want to move? And so we looked at some of the houses, but we really like our neighborhood. We like our neighbors. We've talked to them about the addition, so they know about the addition, particularly the neighbors on the side of the house. They know about the addition. We've talked to them and cleared it with them. We don't have it in writing, but, and we can get that if needed. But we thought that we'd like more room, both from a storage aspect and from a living aspect. So we decided that because we liked our house and our neighbors and Newtown Square so much, we wanted to stay where we are. And so we thought that redoing our garage to make it a double wide garage, and then also putting storage on the back of the first floor, and then putting an extra bedroom on the second floor so that we'd have 4 bedrooms on the second floor would be, you know, what our family needed at this time. And then as we were doing the designs with our designer, Phil, who's sitting behind us, we found that the existing garage is within the 20-foot setback. It's at 17.7 feet. So there's 17.7 feet between our existing garage and the property line. And so when we were talking to Phil, we decided to try and design the house where we keep the existing setback and go no further, but just demolish the garage and then kind of rebuild it using the existing kind of garage dimensions along the setback lines.
So your width is still staying the same, you're not going out beyond that?
Yes.
We're just changing 2 small doors for 1 big door, so our minivan can fit.
Yeah, we can't fit any car. Well, and we also have like, you know, bikes and strollers, and our garage is completely full. So we just don't have enough room for anything.
There's not much else, other storage in the house.
I see the site plan, and you know, it looks like they're so outside of going back, looks like the front of the house is pretty much the same, like to your point, a little bit different. A little bit higher, obviously with the second floor on there, and the width is the same. Is it existing non-conforming side yard setback then?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we found when we were doing the plan.
So and then you're going out further with the existing garage, is that what I'm?
Front and back, but not out to the side.
Right.
So the back will go out to the existing house, out to
Stays
the
in
rear,
line.
right? It'll go flush to the back, and then it won't even go past the front of the existing house either.
So you have a door between the garage and the house. There's like a
No,
portico.
there is no door.
It's not connecting the 2. We have to go outside and around. We don't park our cars in the garage right now. They
I
don't
mean,
fit. Oh,
next to the garage,
yes, there's a door right next to it.
right? So you're basically making that house even with that section of the house, correct?
Where the
Because
front
it
door
goes
is.
house and then there's like a little door section off to the side and then the
Right here.
garage.
Oh, no,
yeah.
that's not gonna bump out. That's gonna stay
The
the
door.
same.
Yeah, the
Right,
doors-
but you're making it all even,
No, that door will stay the same.
right?
The garage front will come out to the corner of the living room.
Okay,
Because it goes down in 3 levels, that's what we're
Yep.
saying, like there's the existing house and that.
Yeah.
bumped out, so.
okay.
So Andy, there's no, the only thing we're looking at here is the side yard setback.
They're expanding along the existing non-conforming side yard set.
Right.
Right, because they're going out the back, which is still gonna
Yeah,
be
that's correct.
non-conforming, but staying in line with the house.
That's correct.
There's no other issues with any going over impervious surface or anything like that. This is just,
Well, there is I believe that there's a stormwater, management application that's pending,
right,
but that's not before this.
okay. Is there any questions, public comment wise on this application? I mean, I feel like we've seen these before too. I don't, and Andy, I always like to, again, get your input, any concerns over this? I mean, they're staying in line with the house. Well, then it's settled.
Hey, we got an extra seat up here. Come on out.
Yeah, any questions from the board at all on this? Sam, anything you want to get into it, if it is,
No, just a standard conditions if the board should feel favorable on the application.
anyone want to make a motion here?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
All right,
I'll make a motion to approve, application D 2022-17.
that's 27.
Oh, I'm sorry, -27. For the existing non-conforming side yard setback, with the condition that, if the building is built as per the plans in regards to the side yard setback and it doesn't further impede.
Yep, we agree.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
First round of applause we got.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
I think that was for us.
I don't know what it was.
I think that's everything. Thanks, everyone. I'm kidding. I know we have your application.
You cleared out the room.
Next application is Z 2022-28. Julia Davis, 3541 Woodcrest Avenue. The applicant is seeking variance relief from section 172-33B, subsection 5 for a front patio. The applicant also requests relief from any other sections of zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. The subject premise is located in the R2 zoning district. If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record.
Julie Davis, 3541 Woodcrest Avenue, Newtown Square, 19073. I do.
Andy, is the filing order?
Files in order, on the screen, Steve has up the photograph of the posting of the property. The notice, the legal notice that was sent to all the adjacent property owners within 200 feet, as well as being published in the Delco Times on 2 separate occasions.
Right, and Sam?
Yes, Chairman, in accordance with the testimony of the zoning officer, I would ask the following exhibits be marked. Initially, exhibit T1 would be the application and the accompanying documents and any exhibits presented as part of the application. T2 would be the list of residents within 200 feet to receive notice of this evening's hearing. T3 would be the publication within Daily Times on 2 occasions as testified to. And T4 would be the posting of the property for this evening's meetings.
All right, and do we have anyone who wishes to make public comment? Thank you.
A little proud.
All right, all right. It's all yours.
So I did bring some pictures and maybe would you like to see these first?
Love to
I mean,
see
they're with the, I actually wanted to
You have a giant folder we can put this in.
You can take it home, put it on your wall.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to, I just wanted to clarify when it says the front patio, it's actually on the floor on the side. So where is my house? This wall right here, that's the front of my house. So it's basically kind of the side of my main entrance that I utilize to go from the driveway into over here. I have to kind of always go in and out. So what I'm proposing to do is just this front covered breezeway. I want to extend it. It needs to be repaired anyway. I'm going to replace it with flagstone. And then it would come out a little further than this window. It doesn't come the whole way to that front side because I have some things that would prohibit me from spending more money. Oil spill and yeah, those.
So is this just a roof, like a cover pad?
No, there's
Hose.
a hose.
Oh.
So with water.
I know, same.
Now here, it angle out.
So, yeah, there's no roof. There's no roof. Originally, I was thinking about doing more, but I just want to end that. I'm hoping each in place at my house, God willing. And this will just make it easier access from the driveway.
It does, actually, the before and after photo was actually nice.
I don't know if I can help add a little bit of clarity as a reason.
Yeah,
This is simply a front yard, an existing non-conforming front yard setback encroachment. We deal with them quite often. Our ordinance requires, I believe it's 60 feet in that zone district. And the existing condition is shown as 36 feet. So it's obviously existing non-conforming at the moment. We also allow some projection into that required front yard for things like porches and patios, things like that. But however, with the existing non-conformity, it's going to need some that relief. So I'm not sure exactly how far it extends beyond the front of the house.
It doesn't, so my house is basically L-shaped. So you've got the front of the house, which actually is the living room, and then it goes back. Do you want me to point to it on, maybe it's easier?
Is this what's helpful to have?
Yeah, I'm going off the plan that I was,
Yes, but I was obviously before and the after.
oh, it's already done.
Yeah, well, that's just, I think that's just it.
Oh, okay,
So, yeah.
It's
and
just
this
a
actually
drawing.
Shows that,
right.
this shows it as being a little bit bigger, so it's only really gonna come to about here. But this, right here, you can see the corner, that's the front wall of the house. This
Okay,
is
I'm
like
just
the
going off
side
of I'm going off of the plan that was given with the application. And that's why that's showing, it doesn't have a defined dimension there. So it's showing it quite a bit beyond, so I,
Stops at the front. Like right where the
Yeah.
corner of your house is, it
Yeah,
stops.
it does stop. It's stopping, actually.
well, that's
see-
different than what
Yeah.
was
See where
submitted.
the oil spill is? It's right there. I'm not going that far. I'm going like here,
No,
beyond the shutter.
that, then you, yeah,
Or-
not,
Don't you set for that entire
Did you
thing?
see that? Oh,
No, that goes directly to the board.
oh, you did.
So we can, I'm gonna extend beyond.
Don't type that.
But I get that makes sense when you look at it, right?
Well, that was probably my chicken scratch.
yeah, I mean, I know we had some correspondence back and forth and I know
But
that,
that's why I didn't understand, because I was like, basically the size of a dining room rug. You know,
who did this plan? Okay.
Architectural school, right?
I think I shot myself in the foot.
No,
So that's it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even if you were going a couple, I don't. I get it like that, you're not going out.
If it's not going beyond the existing non-conforming front yard setback, and there was no need for the application. However, the decision was made based upon the plans that were submitted.
Yeah.
Okay. So do I still need a permit or what?
Yeah,
You always
we
need a permit.
We've got to calculate the impervious cover. Yeah.
Well, I guess the question is whether or not she actually needs to have a decision if she's going to be compliant with the permit process as opposed to zoning process.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a board decision.
And I guess I'm looking at this one like, and a little thrown off by it too, though, like even if it were just the patio going beyond the front of the house, since it's not like a structure being built, couldn't that still be treated as like a walkway though? It was just,
Well, no, I mean, it's a patio, no different than it would be with a concrete
Okay.
porch. So the provision in our front yard, in our definition, it speaks to allowable projections within a front yard. And it gives limitations to those projections.
okay,
And it even deals with things like bay windows and chimneys and things of that sort.
okay,
So there's different provisions in our definitions that speak to that different. So when I reviewed the site plan, based upon what I have, it showed it extending well beyond that front face of the building. And we had a conversation via email and maybe a phone call, I don't
Several.
recall. And it was about that front yard setback.
Right.
And based upon that conversation and the plan that I had in front of me, it required variance.
Okay.
Now, if they're changing, if the applicant's changing that plan to show what is provided tonight, this evening, I don't think that there's a need for a variance.
Okay.
We'll have to calculate it for impervious coverage.
and
However-
if that change is made, is that something then that she would be refunded on? Not that that's my business, I guess, for that if this didn't need to take place and she's not essentially getting a variance.
I think that would have to be a board decision, primarily because the applicant, the money has been spent based upon the application that was
That's a
submitted.
supervisor's board we're talking about, right? Or,
Well, you have court, you have expenses, administrative costs, court reporter, counsel,
Advertising.
advertising, posting. So there are some costs incidental to
okay,
what we've decided, and we're here tonight because the initial drawing brought us here. But for the drawing, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but we are, so.
Can I just interject one thing? I had expressed early on that I thought it would be easier if someone came out to my property and looked at it, because I felt that once it was seen in person, it would be much easier to actually figure out what was going on.
imagine
So,
if he had to go to every project that's. gonna
well,
fit
I
out,
know,
so
but this was so small.
Right.
You
they
know,
all
I
say
just,
that.
So I got a
but
question.
it is small.
Andy and Sam. We do give, I mean, she can now go a little more if we give the variance and not have an issue, correct?
I'm sorry, say it.
She can now go a little more with this patio, like what you originally said, if we give the variance, but maybe she makes it smaller, she's still covered, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that she can go to the front face of the building, because she's not extending into that existing non-conforming
Right.
front yard.
I think even what Paul's saying is, look, if she's gonna be stuck paying an $800 bill, that we're looking at it going, okay, then why can't we provide a little bit more and say, if you wanted to go beyond that and go a couple feet out?
You can.
I
Beyond
know-
that front wall.
Then you have to make a decision.
Right.
I know, and that's,
Well,
we're
based
just,
on what Andy
Why-
has come up with.
right,
Yeah,
why
well,
tie her to the
That's
exact
entirely up to
location?
the applicant and what the
Right.
board decides.
So I guess I would have probably two questions. If it's not considered a variance, would I be allowed to have more than 6 months just in that now we're approaching winter? And if my contractor says, I can't get to you before the spring, it would be running that deadline pretty close. I mean, does that-
The 6-month limitation is only for the granting of a variance. So if a variance is not granted, and you're just simply applying for a building permit or a zoning permit, you know, you would not have to come back before this board and ask for an extension.
So a permit is good for longer than 6 months?
A permit is, well, technically, no, a permit is good, it has to be active within, for a period of 6 months.
I think the
But
point is,
it doesn't require to come back before any board.
the point is, if the board doesn't rule on your request for a variance, then you could wait till spring to come in for the permit, and the permit would be issued when you're ready to go to work.
Oh, I see. Okay. That makes
And
sense.
basically not go beyond the front of your house with
Right. But if
patio
you,
that you're doing.
right, but
and
if you
don't
want
need
the
any-
luxury of varying your design and going beyond
That
the
front
front, that will give you the leeway to do that if this board would render a decision in your favor.
And we're only looking at that from, at least, again, from my perspective, is you're here. If you're gonna be stuck paying this $800 bill. Is approved, saying, based on the drawings, that you are gonna go a couple feet beyond the front of your house, and we're okay with that. That does give you some leeway. I'm not saying that's what you're gonna do with it, because it would probably look funny if it were bumping out past the front of the house, but that's,
So if I may, I'm rereading my email of July 20th. The only thing that I would be cautious of is the fact that I still don't have a plan that clarifies total impervious coverage of the lot. So the more the
Yeah.
patio is expanded, the more potential there is for an overage and or the need for stormwater management.
just
So
stay in line with the
you know,
house. Keep it
here
easy.
again, I think that that's why it's really important for us to base decisions off a plan.
Yeah,
And that's actually what, again, as Mr. Osling
Yeah, that's-
explained, that's why we're here.
that's,
I think also just to add to that, if you did want to go down the road for, the variance and the approval, at that time, now you would need to know the exact dimensions and what your front yard setback would be. Exactly. And I don't know if that's in the current plan, because in order for us to approve something, we have to say, okay, it's 15 feet from the setback, we're approving that variance.
Well, I did have a diagram submitted with the packet. I mean, was that?
well, I'm
submitted?
wondering if that's the same one that is, that is incorrect in terms of that's what. Going off of that, saying it is coming out to a certain
Well, I
distance.
have,
The site plan that I shown the board is what was reviewed during the application process. That led to the July 20th review letter in which I explained the non-conforming front yard setback concern.
Got it.
But-
Subsequently, the
do
application.
they have this?
Yeah, that's in the packet that we have.
And I also, just in addition, have letters from my neighbors, and some of them, actually, one right next door to me has a similar patio. Of course, it was grandfathered in, but much larger in the front of their house. And then my neighbor across the street has one. So it's not like I'm the only one, and it will not be something that's
No,
intrusive.
there's not, literally, if you stay in line with the front of your house, that's what we're saying. You're not going, because your house is already non-conforming with how close it is to the street.
Right.
That if you keep your patio and stop it right at the front of your house, where your house stops, you don't need anything from us.
You just have to make the decision. Do you want us to grant you the variance where you can go out, or do you want to?
But again,
But with a
careful
lot
what
of
you
the
ask for.
stipulations, because you may have to get water, or you may have to get impervious, or you can do what you want, stay in the house.
And if you're
I
not-
want to, because I don't want it to look awkward, and my feeling is that aesthetically, it won't be as pleasing if it goes beyond that
Right.
wall right there.
My advice, I would just get your regular permit. We won't make any rulings here, because again, there are gonna be changes to it, and you are gonna be under that 6-month deadline to get it done from the time we approve this to do the work. And again, then if you just go out going, hey, I got a free luxury to add 3 more feet.
I don't
Yeah.
really want 3 more feet.
Right.
Yeah,
then-
so and you could be going over your impervious surface. My advice, let's keep it easy. Let's not make any decisions and
Not
don't
to-
go beyond your
Not to
house.
complicate this, I mean, if she is requesting a variance for something greater. And we do the impervious surface coverage issue, and she's still within, then she can go the greater distance. She can then choose versus the impervious surface issue to roll it back. So she has the leeway, just because we grant it, doesn't mean she has to
Right.
fulfill those dimensions.
Okay.
So, I mean, she can have the option to roll it back if impervious surface is an issue.
Okay. That's fine. So I mean, if we're gonna make a motion here, then. You want us to put any wording in here? If this is approved? With
Well,
the drawing that was submitted?
So I think that dimensionally, you need to, as Ed suggested, we need to know how far she wants to be given leeway. Is it the 3 feet, 4 feet?
So, right, with that, and Andy, with the drawing that you submitted, how many feet does it show that it would be going beyond the front of the house right now? In her current drawing? Does it show it protruding out 3 feet?
Here's again, I mean, the plan that I was in the question and answer stage because I don't know that it's ever been fully clarified what this dimension shows.
Okay,
I know I have a dimension of 7.5 and 9. But I'm not sure whether that's the width of the driveway or the length of the patio that's going beyond. So I'm assuming based upon the site plan that was initially reviewed, that it's showing a 7.5 foot projection beyond the face of the building.
okay.
No,
Which-
Well, no,
it's
I'm
beyond
just-
the
I'm just
existing.
explaining what I reviewed.
yeah,
And that's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
So if you don't want 7.5, that's fine. I'm just explaining that based upon this plan, it's telling me it's 7.5 feet beyond the base of the building.
got it.
Which I had to base the dimension, the front yard dimension off another drawing that showed the length of the driveway being 36 feet.
Okay,
So that's where I established the fact that the front yard from the curb line was 36 feet, making it non-conforming. Because the zoning district requires 60.
okay. Got it.
So let me ask you a question. When you say coming out 7.5 feet, are you saying that you thought that it came out 7.5 feet?
Ma'am,
past
I'm just going off
front?
the site plan that you showed, that you provided, that I
Okay.
showed you just a few minutes ago.
Right,
And it's showing a projection of the patio beyond the face of the front of the building, not the garage
Not
setback.
okay,
This plan that you gave me shows a projection beyond the face.
so
of
it
the
was my
building.
mistake.
And I'm assuming based upon that, because there's a few dimensions, but it's not clear as to what they're showing, that the least dimension is 7.5 feet. Beyond the face of the building.
Beyond the face, but
That's correct.
what I had intended was beyond the existing patio, not the front face.
I
That's where
understand
it gets
that,
a little confusing.
So the question is, what are you asking this board to rule on?
Okay, so I don't think I want a variance, but that being said, let me ask you, once the patio has been put in, are you going to be looking for specific dimensions and will you be coming out measuring it, saying it should have been X number of feet?
No, ma'am,
From-
that's the whole point of a permit application
Okay,
and requirement of a site plan. So we can approve it in accordance with the code.
Mhm.
Okay, and then when we give you that approval, you just simply build what was approved, what you said you were going to build.
Mhm.
So yes, there will be an inspection, but it'll be simply to confirm that what was approved was built.
okay.
So you're in the driver's seat. You have to tell us what you want to build.
I want to build 7 feet from the current, I want to add on to the current patio. So I don't know where does that fall?
Let me ask you one simple question. You're not extending, your plans to not extend beyond the front face, not the setback,
Right
not the
here.
garage setback, the front face.
I'm not
Of
going
the
beyond
home.
that wall.
Your intent is not to extend beyond the existing front face of the building.
Yes,
If that's the case, then there's no need for a variance.
so do I have to worry about impervious surface?
Yes, you do.
But again, that's
That's not.
That's not
good,
for
yeah,
us to.
you'll have to deal with that anyway, because that's not what's in front of us. Ours, what we're dealing with is. how
Wait,
far-
then do I have to come back?
Not-
That'll be when you file for the permit. right?
Yeah.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm sorry.
I did, well, now I'm really confused because I filed a permit.
Yes, you did.
And then that was when I got into this variance. So now do I go back to the permit stage? Because I had asked my contractor for a site plan. He goes, oh, you don't need one.
The only reason that you ended up here though was because the drawing made it appear as if you were going beyond the front of your house. So if your patio stops that you're doing there, you are not protruding out into the front yard, so you wouldn't need anything from us. But what was given to Mr. Redcheck was showing that it was going beyond there, which is already non-conforming setback, so that was a problem. But from what you're saying, it's not going beyond that. You're not just saying, I want to go out 1 foot past the front of my house. You stop there, you're fine.
And there is a need for a site plan, regardless of what your contractor has told you. What the application requires a site plan for this very reason.
So who do I get to do that?
Contractor or your.
They'll let them
I mean,
deal with
if
it,
we
yeah.
don't require site plans to be like, we don't require that you spend the money on a survey.
Right.
Okay, as long as someone can produce a plan that's accurate, provides the dimensions that we need.
Okay. So I just say to him, you need to put a site plan down.
That includes the dimensions of all the impervious surfaces of your property. And that would include the footprint of your home, the footprint of your driveway, your footprint of your garage, the footprint of the patio that you wish to build. And that way I calculated based upon the total lot area. And I get a percentage of that should be equal to or less than the allowable impervious coverage of the zoning district. In addition to that, so that's one component that I have to calculate, impervious coverage. The second component is the setback. And that's what we're here tonight talking about, is simply the setback. Based upon the plan that you provided that shows it extending beyond the front face of the building. So you're explaining to us tonight that you don't want to go beyond the front face of the building. As a result, I don't believe that you need a variance, but we still haven't satisfied the questions about your total impervious coverage.
So if he measures the garage, the driveway, the whole house.
Anything
That's-
that's considered impervious coverage, your driveway, the footprint of your buildings, if you have a rear patio, I don't know if you have a shed out in the backyard,
I have a shed.
then that's considered impervious coverage.
Is a brick patio that's not pointed, is that considered impervious?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
So all of those things have to be on a site plan. And site plan doesn't have to be surveyed, but it has to be accurate. And then based upon that site plan, I review it and I make sure that you're compliant.
In all likelihood, had you had that site plan, when you went in to see Andy at the inception, you probably would never have gotten to this point. You would have issued the permit because you're suggesting that you would have been within the front line of your home. So I think that if that's still your position, then maybe there's nothing for us to determine. You bring the site plan into Andy. If it's accurate, he looks at it. If it's compliant, then he's going to issue the permit. I guess what we could do, if it's up to the board, we could continue this. Have the site plan drawn up, have Andy look at it. And then you can decide whether you're going to get a permit or whether we have to come back here and, or else you write a letter and say, I withdraw my application.
That's probably the safest bet because, here again, I think we're learning that there are other things that aren't shown. So I don't know what the impervious coverage is yet. So I would hate for you to close this hearing. And then we find out that there's an issue with impervious coverage.
You're paying again, come back.
Right.
So let's do a
Keep this open.
continuance.
This way we leave it open until you get a site plan and he gets a chance to say, oh, you don't need a permit. Or let's go back to the board and ask them for what you
If
need.
your contractor can't do a
You
site.
mean
plan
I don't need a variance, but I'm always gonna need a permit.
Yes, you always, you don't necessarily need a permit if your site plan suggests that you don't need one. Andy will make that determination. If for some reason it's larger than we believe it to be based on the site plan, then we're gonna come back here, but you won't have to pay for another application.
Okay. So at this point, I don't withdraw anything.
No.
Keep,
My
And how-
suggestion would be you keep it over, get a site plan to Andy, and then he'll determine whether you get a permit. He'll tell you what your impervious surface coverage is and whether that's an issue. And then you'll make a decision to either withdraw it or come back here.
Sam, do we need to vote to keep that open or they just,
Excuse me?
do we need to vote to keep that open or?
Well, I think she can request a continuance
Okay.
based on more information. You can grant her a continuance. Yes.
So would you like to,
You
grant- you want a continuance?
yes, but does that mean I need to come back here?
Maybe not.
Maybe-
Maybe not really.
Then you can withdraw your application. That's what they're saying. So take the continuance.
But does that,
For next month.
You may
So
not
that-
need to come back after you do your whole site
Oh,
plan,
okay.
realize, hey, I do have enough that I can put my patio in. I'm not gonna be over my allowed impervious surface and I'm not going beyond the front of my house. But since you already paid to be here, we're saying, let's keep this open so that you can come back without paying again. Because if we were to make a decision tonight and all of a sudden something else needed to change, you're back here
Yeah,
paying another $800. So
Get your site plan,
Right.
come back,
or don't come back.
or you may not have to come back, but at least it gives you a lot of options.
Right, leaves the door open for
Yep.
you.
Okay.
And to make an ultimate decision without having to pay another fee to come back here to do the same thing.
One last thing on that train of thought, do we continue it until next month's meeting, the date certain, which would put you under a time constraint to get that site plan in? So we don't have to re-advertise.
well, I do want to get it in because my hope was that the contractor had told me he could do the
Well,
third
no,
week
this
of
is
November.
again, just to kind of make things easier, that your date will be, the continuance will be for November 17th back here. Again, if after you realize, yes,
So
November
it
17th.
will already be
Have to avoid
on the
additional
agenda?
costs.
This is all to your benefit.
Yeah, so we don't have to advertise and incur more
Okay.
costs. So the question I would have for you is, do you think that you can get your contractor within the next 30 days to do the site plan?
Does it have to be from him or can it be?
Can be from
A
anybody
lot
that,
of applicants we see, a lot of folks that come in for a permit do their own site plan, it's just measure and. Honestly, I'm looking at what you have here, you already have all the dimensions of your home, there's 36 by 37, and then, I mean, you have that.
But we'll,
ability to-
let's close this out for now.
Yeah.
The record will be left
Is
open.
this what you're looking at?
We want to get poor Tom to stop
Yeah,
typing
yeah.
here, so.
I could talk all night.
There will be, we're gonna continue this to November 17th, which is our next schedule here.
well, let's do a motion to
So-
continue. You're making an application for a continuance. Bill,
Do I need another form
No,
to
you
fill
don't
out?
need anything more.
you just need
Just let us say.
Ask them for a.
Yes,
continuance.
yes.
I motion to continue the 2022-28 till November 17th.
Or second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, meeting adjourned.
One last question for